Hi everybody, my name is Kevin Davis and I want to share with you a few examples of real estate video using an aerial drone. This first example is a church, though that might not be obvious until we get up above the roof and see that there's a steeple on top of this thing. I was originally asked to fly this and check out some of the roof flashing because there was some concern about wind damage. As it turns out, there wasn't anything to be concerned about. But the drone was a useful tool for that because this would be expensive to do to get a bucket truck out there and inspect it from the top of a crane or a bucket. I flew another church to inspect the weather vane on top of the steeple. That thing was bent clear in half, so both of those jobs were very useful to do with the drone, very practical. I figured while I had the drone in the air, I'm going to do a fly over the property, sort of a site survey, simply because I can. They were particularly happy at this time because the paint on the pavement was brand new and, well, it looks real good. This next example is a small mill, and this was a little bit difficult because it is a small building, and I'm rotating around it manually using the control sticks and changing the elevation. It's just it's a little bit tighter space than you might think. And directly behind me there's a roadway, and I don't want to fly over the road if there's traffic coming by. But as we come around this corner, I want to drop down into this pocket next to the water wheel, doing camera movements and drone movements at the same time. And lastly, I was picking up some terrible color cast off on the snow on the roof because of the open sky and the blueness. I had to take that into Photoshop to get rid of the localized problems just on the snowy parts. This is a condo complex that's still under construction. You can see that dirt patch there where they're putting in a new building. There's some dumpsters and some framing. Most of these units are not yet occupied, but as we go down a few rows, we start to see some cars, and there are some people who have moved in already. So this is a very large installation with more to come. This is a completely separate complex. This has been around for a long time, and you can tell by the height of the ornamental trees that it's been here a long time. Beautiful flowering trees, probably Callery pear or Bradford pear. Take your pick of which name you want to use. There's a kid arriving on a bicycle over there. But that brings up an interesting point, that because this is a fully occupied place, I have to take greater care not to fly over pedestrians, not to fly over moving cars. It just so happens I got lucky. At this time of day, on this particular day, there was no movement except the one kid on the bicycle. And as I come over I don't know if you call this a cul-de-sac, but as I come over the center of it, where there's a playground, it just made sense to hover there and spin. Just for visual effect, I'm just intentionally spinning the drone around because it looks good. The next example is just about the landscaping. It starts out with these flowers in the foreground and that elaborate sign in brick. But directly above it is this beautiful cherry tree. So I'm going to start with a rise in elevation. I'm going to turn slightly to the left, tilt the camera down so we're looking down onto the canopy of flowers. A little bit tricky to do. Directly to the left of that, there are these Callery pear planted in the median strip. And this was a much easier shot because they're planted all in a row. So it just made sense to do a linear parallel flyby with the drone. And sometimes real estate is mostly about the landscaping. This was just a personal trip to Philadelphia. Again, it's early springtime. I love early springtime. And you see the cherry trees blooming in the background. Most of the trees have not leafed out yet. The green of the leaves isn't there yet. I just decided to spin around this statue because I can. And these two ladies walked by in the walking path. They completely unaware that I was flying there. This was a shot that I did for the folks who live in that charming little house. I'm going to skirt by this tree very carefully. Don't want to fly into the tree. But they asked me to do some photography of their home. And I figured, well, I got the drone in the air. I'm going to shoot some video too. Now here's a particularly interesting shot. Descending in elevation from higher to lower, at the same time turning the drone to the left and tilting the camera to keep it level. Very nice effect. I got lucky that that sailboat was moving in the background. This is a well-known location on the coast of Maine. This is Old Orchard Beach in winter. The pier extends out over the ocean. It's got restaurants and shops. In summertime, it's a very busy location, but right now it's not. So this was just convenient for me that there's not a ton of people on the beach. I don't have to worry about flying over anybody. You can see there's nobody there. And I'm just doing this is much like the tree shot before, that I'm just flying parallel, straight, not particularly difficult shot until I get to I think this is a hotel at the end, but I'm not exactly sure. This is more of an environmental shot over the salt marsh, and you see these boats are kind of stranded on the sand because it's low tide. At high tide, they'd be floating, but because it's low tide, they're all kind of stuck there. And it's just really beautiful out on the northeast coast of Massachusetts. Early in the morning, you see the warm morning sun is raking across those grasses, turning them to that vibrant, rich, yellow-green color. The river stretches into the distance. It was just pretty. I'm just doing this for the fun of it. Not here to photograph anybody's property, so I'm staying fairly high in the sky. I used a little bit of digital zoom here to get in a little bit more magnification on the community that lives here. And this is right next to there. It's the same location. It looks like a jigsaw puzzle with all these little holes and pockets through the grasses. It's a very slow crawl. This is about as slow as I can fly and still be moving forward. I thought it was too slow. I was going to speed it up. But you see there's a few seagulls in there, and if I sped it up, they'd look like jet aircraft. So just a slow crawl. Well, that's all I have today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.